guys, welcome to another video of Learn Academy, and in today's video we are going to discuss one of the important topic of machine learning, which is outlier detection and its removal. First of all, we are going to discuss how to detect an outlier from a given dataset, and further we are going to discuss how to remove those outliers from a dataset. So without any delay, let us discuss how to remove outliers. Since outlier are very important because it has a greater impact on accuracy of a machine learning model. Since outliers reduces the accuracy of a machine learning model, so it's better for a data scientist to remove those outliers at the beginning, and after removal of those outliers, then they can use a particular dataset for further study. So let us discuss how to remove, first of all, how to detect those outliers, and after detection, we can discuss how to remove those outliers. So first of all, I am going to import some important libraries. First of all, I import a very important library, which is nothing but Panda. So Panda library is particularly used for fetching a data set from a machine. So I'm using import pandas function, and I import panda as a pd. So first of all, I import panda as pd. Now I'm going to import another important function, which is os. So I import os, and os is basically used to change our directory, our working directories. Suppose you save a file in different working directories, so you have to define a working directory in which your file is saved. So I change my working directory. So I use os.chdir change. This is chdir is nothing but it is a change directory function. So I use os.chdir, and I define the location at which my file is saved. Now I define my data as a data. I given a name. I given a name for my data as data, and I use pd.read. Pd is a short name for pandas. In the beginning, I import pandas as pd. So now I am using this particular pd. So pd.read underscore axle, and I define the name of my data, which is constant data uts. This is the file name. So I define the file name here dot xlsx, because my file is an excel file. If your file is in csv format, then you can use dot csv, and in the place of excel you use csv, pd.read underscore csv, and you can define the file name dot csv, and finally I print the data. So if I enter this, I can see my data. It's take a little while. Now you can see on the screen that this is the table which contains all the data, and as you see, it contains 194 rows and 7 columns. So you have to remember this, and in the last we can see, after the outlier removal, this data set is will reduce. Now I rename this data as df. Now I save my data with the name df. So you can use any name. I prefer df. So if I enter here, the name of the file which is saved by the name data, now it is saved by the name df. So I rename my file name. Now I use another function, which is another function, and I write the code for that particular function, and I write here df.describe. And if I enter here, so you can see on the screen there are many options available for you, and it shows different values for your input and output. Suppose you have 10 inputs and 2 outputs. So it automatically df.describe automatically calculates the mean, standard deviation, minimum and maximum values, 25% of the data, 50% of the data, 75% of the data, and in the beginning it shows the total number of count in each and every input and output. Suppose in my first input it shows that there are 194 inputs, and 194 inputs. As we see that there are 194 rows and 7 columns. It means that in each and every input and output there are 194 values, and if we calculate the mean of all particular inputs and outputs, then this particular row shows all the particular means of individual inputs. Suppose the mean of my first input value is 0.26 and the second input value is 0.15. Similarly, this is my output, and the mean of all the values of output is 0.43. Now this particular row shows the standard deviation. So if you use df.describe, then it shows the count, the mean, the standard deviation, minimum value, and the maximum value. And this particular row, the row number 4, shows the minimum value among all the input values for a particular input value. Suppose this is my first input value, and it shows here that the minimum value for this particular input value is 0, and the last column is is for the output, and it shows here that the minimum value of the output is 0.029, and in the last row shows the maximum value, and uh, it shows that my maximum value for first input is 1, and the maximum input value for the output column is 0.984. So this df.describe is particularly used to show the various mean, count, standard deviation, minimum, maximum values. Now I am going to use another code for defining the minimum and maximum threshold, or for finding the minimum and maximum threshold value. So the advantage of using this minimum and maximum threshold value is that this particular code is now used to set these threshold value, that this is my minimum value and this is my maximum value. So if I use and in single column, I use this I define both minimum and maximum threshold value. And suppose you have to and remember one thing, that you have to define the name of that particular column from which you want to remove the outlier. Suppose I want to remove the outlier from my output values, so I define here the name of my output, and the name of my output is nothing but ultimate. So I define the name of ultimate, and if you remember, I rename my data as df, so I use df here. Now so you have to use your own particular name. So I use df because I rename my data as df, and I define minimum comma maximum threshold, and here I define df.ultimate.quantile, and quantile is used to define a particular range, and I define the range that from 0.1 to 0.99. This particular code is used to detect the outlier uh, from 0.1 to 0.99 range. Now this minimum threshold and maximum threshold is used to set the limit of, or see the limit of minimum threshold and maximum threshold. Now if I press enter, so I can see there are two values, one is 0.174 and another is 0.928, and this 0.1746 is nothing but the minimum threshold value, and this 0.982 is nothing but maximum threshold value. It means that in the next step, when we are going to remove the outlier, then our function, our code will remove all those values which are less than 0.174, and it will remove all those values which are greater than 0.982. This is the important thing. Now I use df because my data name is df, and I saved my data with the name df, and I define df.ultimate, which is my output name. So, and I say df.ultimate less than minimum threshold. If I press enter here, then it will show all the values which are less than 0.174, and I can see there are so many values which are less than 0.174 in this particular column, which is nothing but the output column. And it will remove all the values from which are less than 0.174 from the output column, which is saved with the name ultimate. Now in the next block, you can see that I have written df dot ultimate less than minimum threshold. So it will remove all the it will detect all the values which are less than 0.174, because 0.174 is our minimum threshold. Now moving further, I have defined here df dot ultimate greater than maximum underscore threshold. So when you are using this particular code, then it will detect all the values which are greater than our maximum threshold, and maximum threshold is nothing but 0.9828. So if I press enter here, then then it will show that your value which is saved in 140th row, then this particular value is greater than 0.98, 0.982, which is your maximum threshold, and this value is 0.9843. So it will detect many values from a given data set which are less than minimum threshold and greater than maximum threshold. Now this particular code which I saved with the name df2. Now since I have to make another table which is free from outliers. So I want to define another name for this particular data table. So I use df2 as another name. So I save those that I save that table with the name df2. Now I define uh, now I write here df is nothing but the name of my original data file. Now from original data file, I write a code that df dot ultimate less than maximum threshold and df dot ultimate greater than minimum threshold. Now what will this code do here, that it will remove all the values from our table which are less than minimum threshold and greater than maximum threshold, and it will save those values in another data file with the name df2. Now I use this particular code df2.shape in order to check the shape of my new table. Now if I press enter here, then I can see that my new table has 173 rows and 7 columns. It means that it removes now it means that my data is reduced from 194 to 173. It means that there are many outliers from in my data set. So I remove all those outliers. Now if I want to see the actual table which is saved by a name df2, so I write df2 and press enter here. So I can see that this is my new table without any outlier, and I use this particular table for my further study, for my modeling. And I can see that there are 173 rows and 7 columns. Remember here that originally I have 194 rows and 7 columns. Now after the removal of outlier, I have only 173 rows and 7 columns. So in this way you are going to remove outliers, you are going to detect outliers from your data set, and you can increase or enhance your accuracy of a machine learning model. So I hope this particular video is very helpful to you. Guys, please like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. Thank you for watching.